soft on crime policies leaving a trail of avoidable death and destruction in Democrat-led cities all across the country. Dangerous criminals who should be behind bars are set loose with plenty of victims to choose from. And liberal district attorneys don't seem to care, despite there being a tragic new example of their policies every single day. Like 24-year-old UCLA grad student Brianna Kupfer, who was randomly stabbed to death while working in a furniture store in Los Angeles. Her heartbroken father blaming politicians for letting criminals run rampant.
This kind of tragedy just can't befall more people. It's just so painful. I'm not blaming anybody by name. I blame what's endemic in our society right now is that everybody seems to be oriented on giving back rights and bestowing favor on people that rob others of their rights.
Police think Brianna's killer is a homeless man who just calmly walked out the back door, but said they are still trying to track him down. That is not the only example, though, of lawlessness. The wild, wild west has returned to California. Train robberies are up 160% in LA. Tracks are just littered with filth and discarded packages. The railroad companies blaming no bail policies that allow thieves to keep coming back. All right, Greg, you were around back when train robberies just swept the nation. So maybe this is nostalgia for Joe Biden. You know, I remember when. I just don't see how this could possibly be happening.
He would care if this was Amtrak. Right. You know that, right?
Right.
You know, because that's where he sits and tells everybody about corn pop. You get the feeling we're going to hell without the handbasket. You have Alvin Bragg, right? He's the Manhattan DA. He's under fire for his pro-crime policies. How did he react when the public didn't like what he was doing? He didn't change course. He hired crisis PR. He was more concerned about the perception than he was about human suffering. That would be like Exxon Valdez doing press conferences every day without ever cleaning up the oil spill. You know, this isn't about perception, it's about human suffering. Meanwhile, you know, that poor father, he's right. The response in all of these cities is a WCYD. What can you do, right? You can't lock them up because there's so many activists out there that say that's a violation of rights. And we have mayors that are more terrified of activists than they are of murderers. So you have them piling on all of this context, right? When we do this show, we always complain about being taken out of context. In this case, the context needs to be taken out of the story. Because in the last decade, we've allowed the media and activism to create a context for crime. A deranged male savage murders a female, right? Those are the only variables you need. Once you start adding more, oh, it's about society, it's about inequality, it's about ineffective policing, then what you do is you create leadership paralysis. Nobody can do anything. It's about the rights, and that's what the father said. It's about the rights of the person who murdered his daughter. Well, what about the rights of his late daughter and all of these Asian women that are getting killed? Perhaps if it was white supremacists, the media would care. But they don't right now. We have to drill down on the simplest variables in every equation. Deranged man on the street, women getting murdered. You don't need to add any more context unless you are willing to hang out with a deranged male and explain to him how it's about society and inequality. Good luck with that. Right now, we need to get these people off the street and into institutions. One last thing, institutions. If they're closed, we need to open them up. Geraldo gets a bad rap on this. He was focusing on the institutions that were abusing teenagers and young people with disease. We don't know where these other mental institutions, why aren't they open? We just want these people to get help. We don't want to hurt them. We want them to stop hurting other people.
Is that a consideration in Los Angeles or throughout these metropolitan areas, Geraldo?
There is no place for them to go, Jesse. Greg's absolutely right about that. When they deinstitutionalized the population once described as mentally retarded, those are kids with Down syndrome or severe autism.
Right.
They needed to be in a small facility, a community-based facility. You know, you're talking about schizophrenic, you're talking about bipolar, you're talking about people who've been deemed crazy, who are off their meds, they have no place to go, they're vagrants. You know, Eric Adams is right when he says of New York and other big cities, the #1 job of government is to keep people safe. If you don't give people a sense of safety, and vagrancy is one of the things in homelessness and these aggressive panhandlers and the people that come up with the squeegee and the dirty rags to wipe your windows, all those things were crimes that were enforced from the administration of Ed Koch on, and in recent times have been ignored by these woke DAs on one coast or the other, where they say that these crimes are too insignificant. If you don't go for the kid jumping the turnstile in the subway, no one's going to use the subway because they'll feel unsafe. And then you'll have the nut job that pushes the Asian woman onto the tracks. You have to take care of the small stuff, civic well-being. You know, we have to keep people not only safe, but with a sense of being safe. We need a cop on every subway station, a cop on every train. Those tracks, those railroad tracks, the Union Pacific, didn't there used to be railroad police? Where's the company's responsibility? Why aren't they patrolling these container cars also? It just seems to me that law enforcement generally has been put on the back burner because of the handful of cases of police abuse. The law enforcement got a bad rap, and now they've overreacted, and they're letting these punks do whatever they want to. And in the case of that poor father, what a kick in the guts that his daughter is stabbed. She's in graduate school, working hard. She's going to contribute to society, and some punk, some bum, some piece of crap comes over and randomly stabs her to death and then walks out. I mean, this is untenable. There's small wonder that there is dissatisfaction with government.
Kennedy, you know the scene out there in L.A. You see, I'm sure, in the media market, and because it's national, this beautiful young woman's face is everywhere. Her life is right in front of her whole life.
Yeah.
Is there any feeling among the leaders in Los Angeles that we have to do something now at this point? Do they feel anything, or do they just contextualize it, like Greg said?
It's interesting because some of them do. Alex Villanueva, who's actually the elected LA County Sheriff, he's been working tirelessly with his department to clean up these homeless encampments. So has Kevin DeLeon, who is an LA City Council member. And it's like whack-a-mole. You know, you try, you clear things out, but the ACLU, they've taken the wrong side here. You know, there's a way of defending freedom. There's a way of pushing back against government. But what they're allowing these politicians to do is completely skirt responsibility. Brianna is where I'm from, where I raised my girls in Pacific Palisades. You know, she went to beach camp down the street. She was raised to do exactly what she was supposed to do. Her parents moved to a safe part of the city. She went to college. She was getting, you know, her master's in architecture. She was working at a high-end furniture store learning more about her craft. She was doing what she was supposed to do. So is Crystal Bayon-Nieves. She's a 19-year-old kid working at Burger King. She was doing the right thing. Same with Michelle Alyssa Go. You know, here's a woman who's working hard. Their parents are proud. Their parents raised them right. And now, you know, it's like they're victims. They're gone. They don't have a future. They're not going to have kids. And that's a travesty that we cannot accept. So whatever these politicians are doing, they are doing it wrong. So I hope Todd Kupfer continues to speak out, continues to be the voice for his daughter and other victims who are forgotten.
Emily, do the lawyers own any of this? You cannot touch a hair on a deranged, violent, homeless man's head, but he can go around pretty much doing whatever the hell he wants in a society. Do the owners have to own up to what they did here?
Look, don't blame the bar, Jesse, but let me tell you who to blame. So Kennedy was mentioning the sheriff there in Los Angeles. That's the same sheriff that the prosecutor there, Gascon, called a pig. Geraldo said, where's the government there with the train robberies up 356%? Where's the federal government? Interstate commerce and international commerce, because 40% of our shipped goods go along that trail route there in Southern California, that's DOJ jurisdiction. So the question needs to be posed to our president when they're allocating billions of dollars of your tax dollars to things on the street, $5 billion for mental health. Well, why don't we see where our tax dollars should go? Because all of those families have zero child left. All of those families will mourn for generations where their tax dollars apparently went up in smoke and couldn't even provide for the safety while jurisdictions were fighting over things. And let me explain another policy aspect that leads to this. People talk about criminal justice reform, people pin it on bail laws and the like. When you reclassify crimes, that is the heart of this matter. We all know the recidivist issue, right? 2/3 of violent felons, they are arrested within 5 years of their original offense. That was before COVID. Now that stat's even higher. So the notion that people who rob and battery and stalk and engage in domestic violence and the like, the fact that they go free, those are the recidivists. That's why when we hear about these murderers, people pushing people off subway platforms, we say, who's surprised? That guy was arrested 16 times for battery and for stalking and the like, but now stalking's not a felony. Now battery's not a felony offense. That's where the problem lies. That's who we need to blame. Those politicians and those government elected officials.
I'm sure when they collar the homeless guy that slashed this young girl, he's going to have a rap sheet a mile long. I guarantee it.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.